Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Night Threesome. I am your co host, the night editor, Kat Rocha, and with me, as always, is everyone's favorite alien in a human suit.
It is I, J.Ishiro, author and alien in a human suit. And please, for the love of all things good and that do not suck, stop asking me if Greys created Jesus. No, no, goddamn it, we have nothing to do with that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wow.
Um, and as you can see, we are more than a threesome this evening. Who do we have? Well, of course, there's always the lovely Janelle.
Evening, everyone.
And who is our mystery guest tonight?
Well, it's Bloodthorn, the creation engine. Hello, everybody.
Bloodthorn the creation. I love that.
You all asked for him, and he is back.
Yes.
Waltz Bloodthorn. And by the end of the night, we're going to demand the midget story.
Oh God, which one? I got a ton of them. I grew
Oh,
up with one. I grew up with
Oh.
one. I grew up with a couple different ones.
Oh wow.
oh
Cool.
no, we were thinking of the one where you said that you were in the Middle East.
No. I was in the States, and I smuggled her to out where we were doing training exercises and hid her in the foxhole for like 2 weeks.
This keeps getting weirder.
Holy shit.
Wow, how many people can say I had a midget hiding under my cot and they're serious?
Okay, so for all those people who were here before to hear Ralt's talk and deliver on that story, you might want to let everyone on social media know that Raltz is back to tell the story.
Yes.
Because I think his fans might be very upset if they don't get to hear this.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So, anyway, I think this is just going to be a night of random talking and stories. I mean, there's plenty of weirdness to go around right now.
Oh, most
Gen X
definitely.
behaving badly.
Yep,
Yes.
exactly. Um, but before we get really into the night, I must ask Janelle, you
Yes.
watched the latest Kami Slayer.
Yes, it was glorious. I was laughing I think I commented on it too.
Yes.
Yeah, that was some good shit. I was laughing my ass off.
Oh, that reminds me. We have not had a chance to watch Pee Poodoo yet, so
Okay, I tried to get through it. I got past episode 10 before I was like, I cannot. There's only so much perversion I can take before I check out.
What was it?
Pee Poodoo and the Superfuck Friends.
Never heard of it.
It's a French cartoon that
Oh,
was
that's
so.
enough said.
So I was gonna say he's also a whacked out communist. So the guy that created it.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh my, no, you know what? Okay, Saber Spark did cover this, but it's not the cartoon I thought it was. And Saber Spark covered it because he had a huge boner for the cat girl.
Oh my God, Dr. Pussycat.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, each episode is like a bad sex ed episode, like in the most graphic way possible, explaining the most perverse shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was in France once, and I turned on the TV at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I watched it for like 30 seconds. And like, what the fuck is this shit? Turned it off and went back to drinking.
Wow.
I was like, am I watching softcore porn?
So
It's like,
clearly, all the inequities in sex can be solved with Marxism.
yeah,
Of course.
was like,
Marxism perversion.
yeah. Hey, you got to do something.
All right, so yeah, I guess this is going to be a Gen X behaving badly show, sort of. I would suggest all of you start firing questions at us immediately. And since he's here, let's hear the midget story.
Yes.
All right. So, I grew up, around midgets. There's like every place we moved had at least one, and because there was one in the trailer park that we started out with, I remember being 5 with her and swinging on the swings, and I always like notice them, and it's amazing how many people will just walk right by them and don't even see them. They don't. They literally do not see little people at all. Dwarfs or midgets, people don't see them. So I was stateside. I'd come back. I'd spent like 5 years in Europe. I came back stateside, tooling around. It was after Desert Storm, and I ran into one at a bar, and we ended up striking a little bit more into friendship. And after about a month, I said, "Hey, I have to go to the I have to go out to the field for the next 90 days, and I got to live in a hole. And she's like, what do you mean you have to live in a hole? I said, well, they're going to put me on the forward OP, which is, it's an 8-shaped foxhole with the back of it's covered. So you're pretty much living in an H. And, it's really crappy. And she's like, oh, it's too bad I can't come with you, because I'm not working right now. I'm laid off. And I'm like, well, I can smuggle you out there. And she's like, what? I'm like, I'll just smuggle you out there. You sit out there with me and eat MREs, and I'll show you how to shoot an M60. And she was like, all right, it sounds better than sitting in my apartment watching TV. So I put her
I'd
in a
go with
duffel
you.
bag. Yeah, I put her in a duffel bag, smuggled her out there, and we'd been out there for like a week, and it was raining, and the sergeant major came up, and he looks down. I didn't hear him coming up because, man, he was a creepy fucker. He like crept around. He did like 4 tours of Vietnam, so he was one of those guys. And he
Oh.
comes creeping up and looks over, and he goes, and I look up, and she looks up, and he looks down in there, and she could see he could see she was an adult because, she wasn't wearing her top. And her her face is, I did up her face. I was teaching her how to do how to put on camouflage correctly. And he looks down in there, and he looks at me, and he looks at Linda, he looks at me, and looks at her, and goes, I don't even want to know. And he just walks off.
So what you're telling me is your commanding officer walks up.
No, the
creeps
sergeant
up-
major of the battalion.
Oh,
Oh,
Sergeant Major of the
Jesus.
battalion creeps up, finds you with a half-naked little
Midget.
person with her tits out, and you're painting her up in camouflage.
Yes.
God, you can't make this shit up. This
And
is
No.
great.
I was known for being, a little weird and doing ridiculous stuff. So, but they let it slide because every time something came up and they were like, "We need a volunteer," I'd raise my hand. So I was automatically, So they cut me a lot of slack. And the only time he said something was like 2 weeks after we'd gotten back. He comes up to my room. They're doing room inspections, and battalion commander comes in, first sergeant of my company, my CO, sergeant major come in. They're looking around, everything's good. He leaves, and sergeant major stops and turns around and goes, that little woman isn't in here, is she? And I'm like, no. He goes, you are the weirdest guy I know, and walks out. It's the only time he brought it up.
Wow. You know what? Guess what? You are now that guy that he is going to be telling stories about till the end of his days.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Dare I ask why her top was off?
Because it was raining, and I was applying camouflage, and I don't know, it was just like a thing to do at the time.
Okay.
Just felt like seeing midget tits, huh?
Yeah. It's not like we hadn't been living there for a week. She told me afterwards that she had a great time. I taught her how, I showed her how to call in fire support, how to do a grid coordinate, how to maintain an M60.
That's kind of
Cool.
sweet.
She was like, I'd never get the chance to do this.
You could make that into a heartwarming movie.
It could be a heartwarming
Or
movie.
again, the chance she never had to go out and blow shit up.
The fun thing is, you fire blanks. We're out there. They're aggressing us for training, and I let her shoot the damn thing. That was the funniest shit I've ever seen.
How
Oh
far
my
did she move
God.
back?
She didn't, because I had it mounted on a tripod.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
But her arm was stretched all the way out to grab the pistol grip and the trigger, and she's just shaking.
Wow.
I had to put my hand on her back.
Oh, jeez.
But she was like, that was amazing. Yeah, a couple of the Op 4 guys found out. They were like, you were the weirdest guy we know. And that's saying something, Frito, the 1992 military.
Yeah.
Okay, see, the way you told it last time, it sounded a little more illegal. But you
It was
said
pretty
you had
illegal.
tossed the midget in the bag, and
Yes.
it sounded like you had kidnapped her.
No, I didn't kidnap her. I just tossed her in the
Okay.
rucksack and said, let's go. Threw her in the back of the truck. Well, I had to smuggle her in.
Well, I suppose that wasn't hard.
No, it's not hard. Cover it with a camo net.
So how are you, Janelle?
I am great. This is my introduction to Ralt, actually. I have never formally met him before.
Nice to
This
meet
is
you,
an
Janelle.
awesome introduction.
Oh, I spent up until the time I was about 40 doing the dumbest shit imaginable. My wife was like, "I married a cartoon."
There are worse things.
Yeah, yeah,
You could marry an alien. That's kind of worse.
No,
Um,
yeah.
it's not. Just different.
but
You're almost midget
I
sized.
mean, essentially, your writer's bio must be just amazing. It's like you talk about this stuff, and then you get into, and then I was hit by lightning, survived, and I'm a good writer.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Holy
it's real.
shit, what is that real?
Yeah,
Wait,
I get hit by lightning.
Jesus
He's got
Christ!
superpowers, actually.
Yeah,
Wow!
the way I write blows people away because my daughters watch me, and I'll sit down at the keyboard. I'll get it ready. I'll close my eyes, take a couple of breaths. With my eyes closed, I'll start typing, and I'll write it straight through. And it's funny because when I come out of it, it's like I'm reading it for the first time when I'm looking it over. I have no idea. It's all in the back of my head. There's no plan. There's no conscious plan. There's no. I don't know where this is going except for the back of my head knows where it's going. I have no idea where this came from or is coming from.
Cool. It's like automatic writing.
Yeah, it's really weird. But hey, people love it, and I'm glad.
Yeah, maybe it's like what Philip K. Dick claimed that that actually he wasn't writing anything; that it was all just coming from another dimension. It was a parallel universe that was leaking into his head.
That's how it feels sometimes. It's
Oh, we
kind
got a
of funny.
question.
Okay.
This is to Janelle. Hey, I don't know if you remember me recommending the Dying Earth series to your kid, but you may want to hold off on that. I remember there are 2 stories that may have some inappropriate parts.
Okay, I will hold off on that. I did have some good news about the saga with fantasy. He is reading the Chronicles of Narnia, and I told him that Labyrinth was written by Terry Jones and he loves Monty Python, so he's going to watch Labyrinth.
Nice.
That's always a good one.
So, yeah, as soon as I said Terry Jones, and he's like, that name sounds familiar. I said, he's one of the Pythons. He's like, when can we watch it? So, we're making baby steps, guys. I think I might be able to win him over with dark fantasy.
There you go.
Excellent.
What's that
Oh,
one with Tom Cruise and the unicorn?
Legend.
Legend.
That's always a good one.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a good one. Although I have issues with the director's cut, but I prefer the ending of the director's cut to the theatrical.
Oh, where he breaks up with their. Oh, whoops! Spoiler alert.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, that's only if you watch the director's cut. So
Yeah. I prefer the original because I know a lot of people will probably disagree with me, but that Tangerine Dream soundtrack
Oh yes.
is fucking dope. Not only that, oh, okay, this is a weird tangent, but I went on a weird obsession with Brian Ferry and Roxy Music this weekend. Don't ask why, because I don't even know. But I found out that song, Is Your Love Strong Enough, that's sung by Brian Ferry. The reason it sounds so fucking rad is because David Gilmour from Pink Floyd is the fucking guitarist. So he's singing a Pink
Oh.
Floyd song. Go back and listen to the original, not that crappy one that came out for the remake with Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Go
Yeah.
listen to the original, and it's literally Brian Ferry singing to a Pink Floyd song.
That explains a lot.
so we had a conversation last weekend, and I think
Mhm.
you two might be able to comment on this. And Cap has been watching a lot of these videos debunking life hacks,
Oh yeah.
I
And that
love
she's-
those videos.
and that she's noticed they're always sold on. See, it'll make your life easier. As if any of them ever work, right? And it's like, did you know? And it's something really practical that's no big discovery, or it's something incredibly stupid and even dangerous.
It's a lot of people going, look, 5 Minute Crafts is trying to kill another chunk of the population this time.
And then I started thinking about it, and I realized, for Gen X, because we didn't have the internet, our life hacks were a little different. Like, dude, if you're really, really bored, you take the contact medicine, you pull out all the red ones,
Yes.
and you take them all at once. Does anyone remember that?
Yes.
Or then, of course, there's, hey, if you're really bored here, take all the empty whipped cream bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And huff them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or then there was the watch Wizard of Oz with Dark Side of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
I remember that too.
Yeah. I think that was the equivalent.
I did try the take acid and watch the wall.
How'd that work?
It was relaxing. It was nice.
Oh, cool.
It was like five of us sitting there just relaxing and watching it.
Nice.
So I'm trying to think if there were any others, but I noticed that these were all like, well, you're at home and you're really bored because you're stuck home. Okay, got a comment here.
Ironcast Knight. Also, that big stack of Case File Arkham art prints I ordered showed up and look wonderful, though the aspect ratio makes framing them a little tricky.
Sorry about that. That was one of the print sizes offered.
Yeah. But what I found is you can get matting for it.
So again, we need to start on the behaving badly topic.
Okay.
Now,
well, we kind of already started.
Yeah, we need to start moving into that territory a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, either Raltz can go or Janelle. I mean, anything coming to mind, Janelle?
Behaving badly.
I think I spilled all my dirty secrets, like when we did the first one, and then me on drugs all the time.
So, no more stories about the dude peeing and saying that he was Jesus?
Did I tell you guys about the night that we went to what was called the Tubes and he peed on the Taco Bell
No.
drive-through speaker while giving his order?
This must be his thing. Is he peeing on stuff? He marks his territory, is what it is.
So it was one of our friends' birthdays, and we went to something called the Tubes, and it was a quarry. And the reason we called it the Tubes is because it had the huge cylinders that they used to make the freeway overpasses. So we'd sit in those huge tubes and we'd smoke weed or drink. And then we all got hungry, and so the only sober person drove us to Taco Bell in Spring Valley. And Piss Jesus gets out of the car to make his order, and as he's making the order, he's peeing on the speaker at Taco Bell. This was a common occurrence. I mean, I guess I could tell another one where he peed was Jesus.
There's just a list of where he peed.
Yeah, okay, so I used to go to Tijuana a lot because it was, cheap booze, and I'd go dancing
Okay,
with my
nobody's going to
friends.
notice if you're just pissing out in the open at TJ.
Oh, no, this is when we come crap. Long story short is we all got shit-faced. We were walking back from Revolucion back to cross the border, and oh my God, this story, Jesus. Okay, so those gyroscope things people lock themselves into?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he climbed into one, and we forgot to latch him in, and we spun it. And he flew, and it alerted a security guard who called over the federales. Oh my God. And he ended up slapping his brother in front of the federales, takes off his shoes and books it down an alleyway. And we were just like, we let the federales chase him, and we booked it to the border.
Oh my God.
And then
Wow.
another time we went to TJ, one of our friends was being really obnoxious, along with this guy's brother. They were both being obnoxious. So we got stopped by the federales, and I gave them my last $20 to make sure they didn't get arrested. And one of the obnoxious guys got mad and hit a sign, so they rolled back up on us. And but the other guy said he took the fall for him because all he could imagine was this prissy guy who hit the sign grabbing his ankles in a Mexican prison, where the other guy that was with us, who is Piss Jesus's brother, is like 6'6" and Mexican. So we cross the border, and Piss Jesus goes to a payphone, calls his mom, and as he's telling her that his brother has been arrested, he whips out his dick and pees on the payphone. His brother just got arrested, and he's on the phone with his mom pissing on the payphone. Like, I was so mad because I had to be in a wedding in 12 hours when this was going on. And I was just like, I'm never going to TJ again. 2 weeks later, I went to TJ anyway. But I spent a lot of, when I was between 18 and 20, I spent a lot of time in TJ. I shouldn't have, but I did. So yeah, he just had a habit of peeing everywhere, and I had to witness it on more than one occasion, and I really wish I hadn't. I mean, being on mushrooms, claiming that he was Jesus and the world was going to end before pissing on the carpet, that was gold. But then having to see it more and more was just like, really, man? Like, do you have to mark your territory all over East County? So,
Yeah, it's funny. That kind of puts my collection of pictures of all of my male friends pissing on the same wall to shame. I'm
Piss
not kidding.
Jesus. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was answering Fair Maiden's question. Piss
Oh,
Jesus is alive. He lives in Slab City by the Salton Sea.
oh, really?
Yeah, he's one of those burnouts.
Oh,
Oh man, I lost $20 to a woman over an argument about peeing.
really? Is this? I knew a submariner who lost a contest of who could pee highest on a wall and to a woman.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
awesome.
pretty much. She was new to the unit, and we are down at the NCO club, and we're all bragging and talking shit. And finally, she went, name one thing that you can do that I can't. So we all look at each other, and go, piss standing up without running down your legs. And she's like, put the money on the table. I'll bet. I'm like, I got an extra $20. I'll watch this. I gotta see
Okay, I
this.
like her.
We walk out back at the NCO club. She drops her pants, grabs her gear, and pulls, and pisses on the wall, and goes, "You can pat my thighs. Not a drop ran." We were like, "Motherfucker!" She took us. There was a good 10, 12 of us. She took us for between $20 and $40 each. Rest of the
Holy
night, she's
crap.
sitting there going, "God damn, this is good whiskey. This is really good whiskey."
Wow.
Oh God, she'd take people for that all the damn time.
Oh, that's
She had the
hilarious.
talent.
Okay, I want to hear Kat's story about taking pictures of her friends pissing on the same spot on a wall. I got to hear this.
It's just one of those random things. It was after school. Of course, we had been kicked out of the library. We well, never to return again unless it was for a homework assignment because we were laughing too hard at the pornography in there. And we were done throwing bottles at one of the park benches, but we didn't want to go home yet. And one guy says, I got to take a piss, but we can't go to the library to use the public bathroom, and it's too far away to walk to the closest friend's house. So he goes to. This is at. Well, Janelle, you know this. This is at the Scripps Library, the Scripps Ranch
Okay.
Library.
Yeah.
The little tiny lake that's there across the street from the very big lake.
Yes.
We're all at the tiny lake, and you know how they had those weird uh concrete vents that were coming off of the machinery that's around the reservoir that's up there.
Hmm.
He went to take a piss on that in front of the street, no less. And they're all sober, so you can't say that they were on something. They were sober, but he was pissing right in front of traffic. And I had my camera with me for some strange reason, with film and everything. And I took a picture because I thought it was hilarious.
That's right. That's right, Zoomers. There was a day when you actually had to have film in your camera for it to work, and it wasn't
Yeah.
your phone.
And when he stepped away, the spread looked like a Cthulhu monster. So of course I had to take a picture of it. And the other two guys I was with were like, "Oh well, we got to add to that." So each
Oh,
one in
God.
turn took a piss on the wall, adding to the Cthulhu monster. And I took a picture of every single one.
See, this is why
Oh
you
my
were
God.
always one of the boys.
My wife was on a medical convoy during the second day of the ground war, and she had to piss really bad. And you could hear, she was telling me you could hear the explosions, you could hear the gunfire everywhere. There was smoke from various places, and she had to have a friend hold her hands while she held her friend's LBE, which is all the chest straps and shit, and
Mhm.
lean her ass over the tailgate of the truck while they're going down the road, and
Oh my
just let it
God.
go.
God damn.
And she was like, and you could see the artillery because it was at night. You could see the artillery hitting less than a mile away, and
Oh
see the
Jesus.
tracers.
What?
She was like, "You have never pissed until you've hung your ass out of the back of a truck at 40 miles an hour."
Damn.
You need to write this all down. Now, I got to ask you a question since you told this story.
Okay.
Do you have any stories about combat jacks?
Combat jacks?
Okay, I guess that's a Marine term.
Yeah, probably. Or it's more
Uh,
recent.
it was a Marine term, and it was basically when they would jerk off in combat.
Not
And it
me,
was like,
no.
that was a claim to fame, apparently, is they would
No.
each talk about the time they would, okay, well, I'm doing my first combat jack of the war.
Yep.
No, but my uncle told me that they had a serial masturbator in their unit who happened
Oh.
to be a 50 cal gunner, and he would
Oh
stand there and
shit.
shoot it with one hand while he was masturbating the whole time.
Oh
What
my
the fuck?
god.
Okay, that actually doesn't surprise me.
No, no, no. It gets better. He said, dude got hit. Dude got hit in the shoulder. And they're carrying him out on the stretcher, and he's using his other hand to masturbate and complaining that it doesn't feel right.
Oh my god. Jesus.
People get weird. People get
Wow.
real weird.
Yeah, real war stories are just a little too weird for, I think, fiction.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well,
And it also, there's a reason there are so many war stories that are comedies.
yeah.
Well, I was sitting there one day, and I didn't realize I was sitting here. I thought it was bees. I kept hearing bzzz. Fucking bees. Yeah. My buddy looks out and goes, what the fuck are you doing out here? Bzzz. I'm like, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about going inside because of the bees. He's like, it's not bees, you moron. Somebody's shooting at you. And of course, I hear, man, did you see the sergeant? He didn't give two shits about that sniper. I was like, what sniper? Yeah,
Man.
I'd been up for like 48 hours. I hadn't eaten. And I'm sitting there eating this shitty meal in a bag. And I just thought it was bees.
God.
Wow.
Because, your brain turns off. You're like,
True.
"Rrr."
Now I have to ask about your MREs. I had a neighbor when I lived by SDSU. He had some of his old MRE rations, and he taught me how to make explosives with the heating packs and some water, put it
Oh,
in a
yeah.
plastic bottle, and then we would throw it at the sorority and let it blow.
Nice.
Because he said that that's what him and his buddies would do for fun. So did
Yeah.
you do that too? You would fuck with people because they said they'd go up to somebody who was sleeping and just lay it close by and then
Yeah.
watch them shit their pants as they woke up.
Yeah, we used to do that. We didn't get the heaters. The heaters were for the second gen, and we didn't start getting the heaters until Desert Storm, and they'd give you great big packets of like 100, and you were supposed to put them in your ruck. And I'm thinking, I'm not carrying a hydrogen bomb on my goddamn back. And we do things like add the water and wait till it was all big, and then hit the lighter and watch the flame shoot out of it. Just dumb shit. But yeah, they weren't the ones we got there with. They weren't in the originals. Oh God! In the second run, there was a huge scandal with M&M after Desert Storm, because in the 1988 presidential election, when you open the M&M packet, you were supposed to be able to win, right? So everybody naturally bought M&Ms because it's the '88 presidential election. So we go to Desert Storm, and they gave us the new MREs, and they had M&Ms in them, which was, I don't like the M&Ms as much as I like the other stuff. But all of them were from the '88 election, right? Now this is 90-91. Every other one of them was a winner. We're talking cash, cars, boats, cruises.
Wow.
We were playing
What?
poker with them. Guys came out of the Gulf with handfuls of winners out of the M&Ms, and we're like, I want my prizes. And M&M was like, well, no, you have to open them in the U.S. And it
Oh,
turned out that
no.
the courts made them pay for it.
Oh, good.
Good.
But yeah, because I remember I had a handful of them, but somebody stole them from me when I was in the hospital.
Oh, that's
geez.
shitty.
Oh man, I was so mad. I got my stuff, and my stuff had been moved by my unit had dropped it off at the hospital. The hospital moved it via the Air Force. When I got my stuff, like 3/4 of it was missing.
Oh, geez.
Oh, they left the stuff that was all covered in blood. Yeah, you take that.
That's
So-
fucked.
What branch of the military did you serve in?
Army.
Army? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was a dumbass.
So, what other ways did you pass the time there that was amusing?
Well, talking about pussy was always a famous one.
That's always a good topic.
Hey, even some of the girls would talk about pussy. And you've been in the field too long when you're listening to your medic tell this long story about that involves this dude's weirdly bent dong, and you're absolutely enthralled by it because you've never heard this story before.
Wow.
She was talking about trying to rod him, if you know what that is.
Uh-uh.
No.
Oh, like going in
That's
through the carotid artery?
no, it's when you rod somebody, it's running a brush or a Q-tip
Mhm.
down the urethra to
Oh,
then scrape and take a sample to check for chlamydia.
Oh,
And she
fuck.
was talking about how the dude's dong was so bent that she couldn't get it working because he got hard in the middle of it.
oh,
Oh,
So
jeez.
she had to put
God.
ice packs on him.
So
Oh
he
my
was enjoying
God.
it.
Yes, that
Well,
was,
we know his fetish now.
and we were all just fascinated listening to this story.
There is actually a fetish where people will stick things up their pee hole because it gives them orgasms and it
Yeah,
actually causes scar tissue and they have to cut the penis so you can pee out of it like through the side because you've caused so much scar tissue. So I'm not surprised to hear they got hard from that. Apparently
the
that's a thing.
sounding is what it's called.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah, you learn all kinds of weird things on the internet.
Oh God, that.
Oh, I'm telling you, if you ever, no offense to you two ladies, but if you ever go camping, audience, if you ever go camping with women for longer than 3 or 4 weeks, and there's like 3 or 4 women in one tent, do not walk in that tent. I'm
I'm gonna
telling you.
tell you, just being there for more than 3 days is something you don't want.
Oh man, I had to go wake up our medic, and she was in the female tent, and she'd been bitching she wanted to sleep out in the trucks with us. And I went to wake her up, and I opened the door of the tent. It'd been like 115, 120 that day, and there was like a dozen women in there sleeping, and they'd been in there for like a month and a half. And I opened that tent door. Holy fuck! I have been tear gassed. I have been maced. Nothing hit me like that. And she comes out rubbing her eyes. I'm like, get your shit. You can stay in the back of the truck.
Was she one of the guys, basically, or
She was our medic. She was one of us.
okay?
She stuck right on our ass for, God, she was in my squad for 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, she was a load of fun. She got there as an E1.
Now, is she the one that could pee on a wall?
No, no, no.
Oh,
That was
okay.
actually an officer.
Oh,
Oh, this
that's
keeps getting
awesome.
better.
She was an officer.
So you had to salute her afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and she would tell the filthiest jokes. I mean, the absolute nastiest jokes. We'd be sitting there, and she'd come rolling up and be like, "Want to hear a joke?" And part of you cringes because you're like, "Oh God, what kind of nasty shit is you to say now?"
Okay, give us a visual. What did this person look like? Were they like really short, really tall?
She was about 5'2", 5'4". Um, Texas Ranch skinny. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
She's all wire and muscle,
Okay,
little
so you've got this
boobs.
short little skinny thing who's just utterly perverse and can piss up a wall.
Yeah, yeah, yep. She was absolutely hilarious. Good officer too, which was surprising, which was kind of nice.
Awesome.
But yeah, she was a fun one. Yeah, yeah. By the time I left the hospital, she'd already transferred units, which surprised me. But yeah, Gen
Mm.
X behaving badly. Can you imagine if they'd had the cameras around and people online snitching you off?
Well, see, that's the thing that I kind of wonder about because, at least for me, a lot of the stuff was videotaped.
The tape got burnt up,
No,
unfortunately.
I mean, remember all the stories I told you about the drunk friends?
Yeah.
They would videotape everything.
Oh,
And you
okay.
remember there was Josh Kennedy where he got completely shit faced and he'd walked into the bathroom
Mm-hmm.
and we're sitting out there watching. I don't remember what we're watching, and finally it was like a half hour like, hey, he didn't come back, and we're all looking at it. Yeah, he didn't come back. So they go in to get him, and they kind of pull him out of the bathroom. And he collapses on the floor, and he's still giggling, pants down, and he crawls and he just flops over, and he's just right, and he's not there. He's gone. So they get his video camera and start it back up because everything that night had to be videoed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And first they get the toilet plunger and they start plunging his stomach.
Oh God.
And then they went and got the toilet brush and they told him his breath stinked. So they opened his mouth up and started brushing his teeth.
Oh God.
Ah.
Ugh.
Oh man.
And they were combing his hair with it. And
See, with
they,
me, I just had to worry about passing out first and somebody drawing a dick on my face.
well, then they did do stuff like that. They did write on him. But finally, the next morning, they showed him the tape. And he thought it was funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because if you don't take it good, you're an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
Yeah.
we didn't
go
have
ahead.
video cameras, and we weren't allowed to photograph a lot. And then before I joined the army, I was like dirt poor, so
Yeah.
video cameras were for rich people.
Well, let's see. This was the early 90s for us in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then later early college. Um, and I remember one of them had spent quite a bit of money to get the camera. But yeah, I kind of wonder what happened to those tapes because there was a lot of questionable stuff. Well, I've told the story multiple times where they went to the mall and they were harassing the volunteer security guards over Christmas.
Okay, I remember those.
Jesus.
Where they kept going up to him, asking him different questions, and they went up to the one dorky kid who was, the junior security guard, and they're asking him questions. So like if a guy's trying to steal something, the excuse was always, "We're doing it for school." Was always the excuse. Oh, it's for school, and it's okay. Well, like, what happens if you see somebody like stealing? Do you like chase them down? Do you hit them? Oh no. I radio in and report it, and then I'll wait for a supervisor to show up. Okay, yeah, but like, what if he's got a gun and he's robbing the place? Do you want to tackle him and kick his ass? No. I would radio for my supervisor, and they would send out support. Yeah. But what if he was black and named Rodney?
Rodney
Would you
King.
chase him down and hit him then?
Mm.
And this was like right after the LA riots.
Oh, those were a trip.
Oh, I know. I had to be evacuated.
I was at Fort. They were shutting down Fort Ord at the time, and I was at Fort Ord. And next thing I knew is I'm right in the back of an APC going into LA, and I'm like,
Oh,
all right,
shit.
I'm fine. Yeah, that's like a lot. The papers gave all the credit to the Marines, but the Army was there for 4 days before the Marines got there.
I knew that. Yeah,
A
I
lot of
remember
people.
that.
Well, you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I lived in Inglewood, about a mile away from Hollywood Park. So,
I have
when
no
they
idea what that
set
is.
fire to the Chinese restaurant that was 4 houses away from my house, we left.
Well, that Chinese restaurant did do something to somebody black, I'm sure.
Yeah, the LA riots, man. That was a hell of a thing.
I always just remember the roof Koreans and the LA riots.
Yep, the roof
God.
Koreans.
Yeah, they didn't. They gave zero fucks. If you were gonna try and fuck with their property, you were toast.
Oh, before the riots, when the beating went around, we had to sit through, I think, 4 or 5 lectures a week.
Oh God, really?
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because oh God, it was the beginning of, they were bringing civilians to lecture us about things, constantly. Ugh. Yeah, I had a woman standing there talking to me about, they had this alcoholism expert come in and talk to us about how to recognize alcoholism. And I'm thinking, it's 10 a.m. in the morning. 3 of my men could probably blow a .12, and you're talking to me about signs of alcoholism, like drinking in private. These guys don't drink in private. They walk down the road drinking out of the whiskey bottle. And one of the guys raised his hands and goes, "So, were you like an alcoholic? You're like a recovering alcoholic?" She's like, "No." He goes, "Were your parents alcoholics?" "No." "Do you know any alcoholics?" "No." "Then what the hell are you lecturing about us for?" "Oh, I went to school to learn about addiction." And I'm thinking,
Jesus.
my guys get drunk every night because I've got like half a squad full of untreated PTSD and half a squad full of drunken morons. But yeah,
Well, they
they'd bring
said
you
that the
these.
Russian army was fueled on vodka.
Oh God.
All of Russia's fueled on vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The fact that that vodka is cheaper than water over there.
That's mind blowing.
and probably better for you
Yeah.
Safer.
I was gonna
because
say it filters out your system, right?
Hmm.
well, that and the groundwater in so many places in Russia is horribly contaminated.
Eeh.
Oh, the industrial runoff was terrible.
I really wouldn't doubt it.
All right. So, any more stories? We're at 40 minutes here,
Hmm.
Yeah.
or
Any
we could
more?
get questions in. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got a combat veteran here that was telling us the bizarre side of serving.
I have another piss Jesus story.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, we could
Sure.
do all this
That way I don't
Jesus.
monopolize it.
Okay, this also takes place in Mexico. So we were out clubbing, and Piss Jesus was getting steadily more drunk than usual. And we finally end up at this one club where I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this or seen it or even done it, but those people that walk around with the hardcore tequila bottles that pour it in your mouth and then blow a whistle and shake you.
Yes.
So Piss Jesus did that. Not the smartest idea. He then
Mhm.
went and picked up the guacamole and salsa that were left on the tables, dumped it on the ground, and then laid down on the ground and attempted to break dance on the
What?
guacamole and salsa
Why?
because it's Piss Jesus.
There's a
I
new
mean,
shirt for you because it's piss Jesus.
he was just basically his legs were just spinning him in a circle, and he was making noises like, "Ah." What the fuck, dude? And we watched him do this for like 10 minutes before they finally kicked us out.
Wow.
Oh man.
It's just like I think that was the last time I went to TJ. That was like my come to Jesus moment.
He showed you the way, huh?
Oh man.
I was like, I can just ask my dad to buy me beer if I really need to get drunk. He would let me. That was the cool thing about my dad. If I wanted to have some beer, he'd buy me some, but he'd take my keys and say I had to stay in the backyard and not drive and just be okay if he bought it for me. So
Hey,
I was
good
like,
dad.
I'm just going to ask my dad, like, can you go buy me a 12 pack of Corona? Can I just sit in the backyard? I don't want to go to Mexico anymore. And I did till I turned 21. But yeah, I'm trying to think, are there any piss Jesus stories in Mexico? No, I think those are it.
Well, I keep promising to tell stories about my cousin Christopher,
Yes.
and he did have a habit of pissing on things too as a boy.
I thought that was involuntary though.
No.
No, he chose to do it.
Yeah, well,
Kind
in
of.
catechism,
Already starting off good.
okay,
Okay.
we're all going to the same thing. This is when we started going to the Franciscan church, unfortunately, and
Hmm.
left the other one.
Hmm.
And that one was taught by parents, so the quality wasn't very good, and they were all kind of crazy anyway.
Hmm.
But my cousin Christopher actually got kicked out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he got kicked out because he was a discipline problem.
Mm.
And I mean, one point, he did not come back to class after the break. He had crawled up on the roof and decided to piss off it. No,
As you do.
no reason why, just did it.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be laughing so hard.
Why? What? It's funny.
This kid is pissing off the Franciscan school.
And
Like, did you guys wear uniforms?
no, we didn't, because this was the Franciscan church and it was in a really poor neighborhood, so no.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of, I don't think it was the wisest choice. I really wish that if they were going to send me to catechism, we just stayed at the parish we were at. I don't know, some weird idealistic idea of the family, not just my mother and father, but other family members decided, no, we'll go to the poorest of the poor Mexican church to be with the people. It was terrible. It was utterly
Having
terrible.
been on the poorest of the poor, I can tell you it's terrible.
I mean,
Oh,
I'll
jeez.
admit the Franciscan monks were very good men. I think most of them were gay, to be honest with you. Just saying, nothing wrong with that. They were excellent, and they were very patient, very patient with these crazy people. And I cannot tell you how many times the priest had to come out and say, "No, no, no, the statue is not crying. Please,
Stat,
the
stat.
statue is not crying. It's called condensation."
Oh,
Ooh.
And the Mexican women would all show up and start putting candles in front of the statue.
I was like, no, it was just cold last night.
And
oh
I
man.
told you about the parents teaching the catechism were nuts. Like the one
Yeah.
woman that would like
Yeah.
scream that the devil's face would appear if we were bad. And
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, you talked about that
Untreated,
last week.
untreated mental illness for the win.
but another thing that happened, I think this is actually what got him kicked out,
Mm-hmm.
was on one break, him and his brother JJ started it, and the other kids followed
Mm-hmm.
suit. Is somewhere along the line they decided that they would fill their mouths up with water, run over to someone and spray it all over them and run off. And they kept
How
doing
old
this.
were
And
they?
oh, this had to be like 12, 13.
12 or 13? Jesus.
Yeah.
He ate a lot of lead, didn't he?
Well, there was that toxic waste dump in your grandmother's backyard.
I'm so glad I'm not related to them. But anyway,
Paint from like the 70s leaking into the groundwater.
Ooh. Ugh.
well, anyway, naturally, if a kid gets water sprayed all over him, he's going to go fill his mouth up and go do it back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And suddenly you've got all these kids running around doing it. And the woman running the catechism program, CCE, wants the ringleader. Who started this? And of course, it's Christopher. Christopher, of course, started this. And she wants to talk to him, and they bring him out, and she's lecturing him and lecturing him, yelling at him, and then he just sprays her with water.
Oh,
He just sprays her with water. Jesus.
ah!
Wow.
That got him kicked out.
Well, that's on her for not having him, spit it out beforehand,
Oh,
I don't think she was paying attention.
Oh, man.
And I think it was the moment where she says, "Well, aren't you going to say anything?"
Oh, Jesus.
That's a movie take right there.
Yeah.
But you were saying, well, did these kids have a lot of lead? They were a little bit older. I think this was around 13, 14. There was a birthday party for my brother, and they were there. And they're in the backyard. And him and JJ are chasing each other back and forth, and they're throwing things. And okay, whatever. And then the poor woman next door
Oh, this.
comes banging on the door, and she's got a glove on, and she's holding a turd in her hand. Shit in my pool.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no.
Someone in your yard throw shit in my pool. I just cleaned the pool. And she was this nice little Japanese lady too, so it's like,
Oh.
Oh, I don't blame her for being mad.
and she's halfway in tears. I just cleaned my pool. Shit! Look, this shit. Right? So they go back there, and they get Christopher and JJ, who were doing this, and they were picking up dog shit with their bare hands and hurling it at each other.
God, what the
Well,
fuck?
Oh, man.
I have a
No,
story of
it's
your family.
not done yet.
Okay.
Not done.
Okay.
Again, thank God I'm not related to these people.
Yeah.
So anyway, they get pulled. The two of them get pulled in, and it's, "Did you throw shit in this lady's pool? Which one of you did this?" And JJ says, I threw it and it went over the fence." And he says, "Why would you do that?" He says, "It's not my fault. I was aiming for Christopher." And he couldn't understand why it wasn't that he should have. It didn't occur to him that maybe they shouldn't have been throwing dog shit at each other to begin with.
God.
How
but
Well, I
much dog
didn't
shit
mean
was in
to.
the
I was
yard?
just aiming for Christopher.
no,
Oh
I,
man.
I've got one about this family. Okay, what you have to understand about Ishii's adopted family, I
Yeah, they're
guess.
not really related to me. So.
His bearded family. Is that they really do live in a compound, like the kind that cults live on, out in the middle of Norco.
Those
Uh,
of you who live in Southern California, if you know about the Norco Corona area, now you know.
Ooh,
yes,
Oh, you know.
ew,
Okay.
yeah,
Jesus. Blech.
and there are three houses all in a row that family live in. So you have this gigantic backyard basically where all the houses meet in the back, and it's a compound. Um and in the back area, it's this wide open field because it used to be a horse paddock, but they don't have horses anymore. At least not there. But somewhere along the way, somebody ordered a porta potty for an event, and it just got left there, and so it's been there for decades and has been used, and it continues to be used. And it's also leaking, so the grass
Oh,
around that
Yeah, what
area
it
is nice and
was
green.
my uncle buddy had rented it because I don't remember if it was an event they were holding back there or what,
Mhm.
but the company never came back and retrieved it.
Is that what the
And
issue
they
is?
just, okay, well, I guess free porta potty.
Yep, free porta potty.
oh.
So every year at Easter, they have an Easter egg hunt, and eggs are strewn all around this compound. But there are certain like golden eggs that have like big prizes, and by big prizes I mean like $5, or when I started going, you get like gift cards to like Starbucks, some relatively small but still big deal for kids. And his grandfather would write these elaborate um, clues as to where the eggs would be.
That made no sense.
But what's funny is he'd say these clues and then unleash the hounds and let everybody go out and try to find them. And you'd get people who would claim, oh, the egg is over here, the egg is over there, trying to deter people from going to the correct spot so that they could get to it. And I don't know if it was you or who it was started telling people like, oh, it's in the porta potty.
I did
Oh
that.
Jesus.
I did that.
And just
Well,
seeing
what it was is they'd all gather around and listen to the
the
clue,
clue.
and you'd figure if you knew where it was, you wouldn't yell it. But the first person who thought they knew would always yell, "Oh, it's here!" And they'd point and they'd all run.
Yeah.
So I started saying things like that. It's in the porta potty.
And the amount of kids who all been descended upon the porta potty and were tearing it apart.
And digging up from under.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh man.
no.
Kids have no goddamn brains.
Nope.
No, they don't.
And the thing is that it would turn into this dog pile of just kids and teenagers just pounding on each other, trying to dig into where they thought a treasure was.
And they would beat each other up to try to
Well,
get to it.
yeah.
For, a couple dollars and a piece of chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds legit.
Okay, William Sovo says he wants to know if we know anything about the Dakota missile bomber fiasco
No,
from 2007.
no.
I gave it a
Nope.
quick glance. It says that a bomb, an unarmed nuke hit the ground, and I didn't read much more than that. Probably it spewed radiation.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know much about it. There's been a few of those.
If it spewed radiation, something went horribly fucking wrong. Because I mean, those things can be dropped from like
Yeah.
800 feet and hit the ground, and the main casing is fine. I mean,
Oh, okay.
if it broke open and the two hemispheres came loose and fragmented, something went wrong.
Okay. Yeah, it said that they didn't. For some reason, they had thought the bomb was unloaded.
That's the Air Force for you. Holy shit. The Navy goes, since the invention of the nuclear reactor without a single meltdown, without a single lost weapon. The Army goes from the invention of, uh, intermediate intermediate ballistic range missiles on with never a lost one, and nobody trusts a Marine near one. And the Air Force loses them like every decade. Let's not forget the Chico silo catching on fire.
What about the one in the Potomac? How'd that one get there?
I'm not really familiar with that one.
Oh, okay. But yeah.
I mean, there's one in the Potomac that thing should have been dredged up. I mean, it's rare they don't retrieve them. I mean, there's one in a swamp, I think, in South Carolina that they've never been able to find because it just vanished. When they dropped it, it vanished. And I think there's like 22 that have been lost, and the majority of them are on the Air Force.
Okay, 1961 Goldsboro B-52 crash in North Carolina.
That might be it.
Yeah.
Why was I thinking South Carolina? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they crash them, or they forget they're on there, or oh god, the Air Force.
I forget they're on there. Jesus.
Can you imagine that? Forget that your pod's loaded.
That's really scary because, back in the old days, in the early days when this stuff wasn't refined, they would have to keep the nuke armed and active while in flight.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all pretty precision. They make it sound like you just run up and hit it with a hammer, but it's a controlled implosion or it's a gun design.
Yeah, well, that was in a game once. I was arguing with Jeff, trying to explain to him it didn't matter how many times you hit the bomb, it wasn't going to go off.
No.
Yeah, he thought that it was just like the cartoon show. It's no.
Yeah, like the gremlin on the bomb.
Yeah, like this isn't the nitroglycerin,
Well, that's like, a friend of mine told me, if you ever have to disarm a nuke, and you got the casing open where you can see everything, the studs around the ball that have the wires come off it, just start clipping those wires. Because if you fuck up the implosion, it's not going to go off.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it'll blow up, but it's not going to go critical.
It's a dirty bomb at that point. It's not.
It's just going to throw uranium shrapnel everywhere, and nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
according to the Department of Veterans Affairs, it's harmless.
Oh.
Isn't that good to know?
Okay, so let's see.
We used to scare the shit out of people in the ammo bunkers. Because a lot of them were rusted out and shit because the site had been abandoned for 20 years when we found it.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving all this unstable ammo. But you get a newbie in, and you want to get them over the fear of it. So I'd take them into the bunker, and I'd walk up and I'd grab my knife and I'd open the top, because the top of an artillery shell has it's a plug in it that has a round circle so you can lift it. It's a lifting plug. And I'd pop that loose and I'd say, okay, these things are a little fragile. You got to watch out for it. And I'd pull the bursting charge. And what the bursting charge does is it breaks open the casing on this particular design. It was all these bomblets. And I pull it out and I'm like, now this is composition B4, which is known to crystallize and become unstable. And I start tossing it hand to hand. And I'd be like, this is the equivalent of about 80 pounds of TNT. And which is a lie. It's probably 10 pounds of TNT in about a half-pound package. And I toss it hand in hand. I said, it's extremely fragile. So whatever you want to do, don't drop it and throw it at them. And some of them piss themselves. They'd be juggling it, or they just stand there and watch it hit. And I'd be like, it's not going to go off. I mean, when you've been working with ammo for long enough, you're so immune to it, you would literally kick it off the back of the truck so it would land on the ground.
Jeez.
Not going to go off. The only thing you had to worry about were like 3 items. And those were terrifying items.
Yeah.
We had 12 pallets of dynamite from the 1950s.
Whoa.
And I looked at the
Why
date
was
of
that
that
still around?
because the place had been abandoned for 10 years. And I looked at the date on that, and I looked at my buddy, and I looked at the date, and I was like, call EOD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one was the engineer demo kits, because they're full of really shock sensitive stuff to the point where the military spray paints on the side in great big letters, do not drop.
Okay, Wolf, real quickly. Depends on what part of the Air Force you go into. From everything I've read, unless it's changed during the 80s and 90s and early 2000s at least, for fighter pilots, it was actually better than in the Air Force because the culture in the Navy wasn't so great. That might have changed.
Mm-hmm.
It was after they tore apart the Air Corps because of the big tailhook scandal.
Ah,
Ah.
Because the Navy had a real fighter jock thing, and then the tailhook scandal happens where these women went to a drunken party and got groped.
Oh my God, the hallway. Is that the one in the
mhm.
hallway where the women would walk through and they were basically tearing off their clothes and groping them
Yeah,
and just terrorizing them?
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That was tailhook, and so
Fuck.
they busted up the Navy. They busted up the Navy Top Gun, and all that stuff to get rid of the toxic culture. And so the Navy actually treated the pilots better. I mean, the Air Force actually treated the pilots better for a while. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a trip.
When did tailhook happen?
I want to say mid '80s.
I was gonna say, like, where did everybody get their ego stroked because of Top Gun?
I don't know. Every pilot I knew was a complete douchebag.
Mm.
Every pilot I knew was a douchebag. I met, once in a while they'd come up and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're pilots," and be like, "I don't give a shit. I got a Stinger missile says you're not shit."
When Top Gun was still here in San Diego, like they were worshipped like gods, and then the movie came out and like it tripled in worship. And then Top Gun got moved to, I believe, Fallon, Nevada. And I was wondering if that was part of the
mm.
tailhook scandal. Like they took them out of their premier spot and like took them to the middle of nowhere in Nevada, of all places.
I just
So
remember tailhook involved admirals.
Yeah, it wasn't.
yeah, it involved like hierarchy. I was in shock when I read about the tailhook scandal for the first time. I couldn't believe that. Well, now I can, now that I know more, but it was just so shocking to hear about how they terrorized those women.
So I read a book called Black Aces High, which was essentially a journalist or went along with the Black Aces squadron during 1999 in Serbia. And that was where I'd read about the culture not being so great. So,
Well, a big shift happened in the '90s. A huge shift. I mean, oh man, I know a lot of guys that talk about how it's like 1991 pissed between Panama and Desert Storm and Bosnia. And you read on Wikipedia, oh, U.S. troops didn't get there until '95. That's a goddamn lie because troops out of Fort Hood went to Bosnia in 1992. But
mm,
between Panama, well, between Panama and Desert Storm and Bosnia and everything else, if you remember back then, the military was just sweeping stuff up, just taking care of it. Well, apparently, it really pissed people off because the budget started getting slashed, all these new rules started coming down, and it was like they were out to dismantle everything. I mean, a friend of mine was artillery, and he was talking about how it just got terrible. Because I got out in '97, I was like, "Fuck this, I'm out." Well, actually, it was the medical board said, "LOL, get out." I went in front of the medical board with my leg in a brace, my other arm in a sling, bandage over mine on my head, and a crutch. And I go in there, and everybody else in front of me was like, "Oh, I want to get out. I want to get out. I have this, I have that, I have this, I have that." Some of them were legit. Like, there was a girl who was like, "I would like to get out." And they're like, "Okay, so what exactly is wrong with you besides what's on your paperwork?" And she goes, "I have a degenerate spine problem now, so that I can't feel anything from like my belly button down." Well, what caused
What?
that? And she goes, "Oh, I don't know, the anthrax shot." And they went, out she goes.
Jesus.
And I went in front of them. They're like, and they look at me and they go, "So do you want to get out or stay in?" And I went, "I want to stay in." And they just stared at me and then busted up laughing. They're like, "No, son, you're going home." I was like, "No, I just need a month or two to heal up." And they're like, "You have 6 medical file folders. There are men with 20 years in service that only have 1 or 2. It's time to go home." That
Oh
sucked.
man.
That really sucked. Yeah.
so should we call it a night?
It's up to you, man. It's your channel.
Yeah.
I mean, you got plenty of other stories.
Then we'll have to bring you back sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about next week?
Well,
Hmm?
I would say next week, but Kronk's really asking.
Oh, okay.
He's been really asking to come on, and I've invited him so many times and he couldn't. I think he can finally make it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, we can bring you on more stories. We can actually this time maybe work up some questions.
Remind me to tell you next time how my buddy threw up an almost entirely whole cheeseburger.
How the fuck do you do that? It's like, what?
It was
Motivation?
amazing.
Wow.
He ate it. He ate a double Whopper in 4 bites.
Holy crap.
And then later in the
Okay.
night, he was doing shots of Rhone Diesel, which is the German version of Everclear, and threw up.
Uh,
Wow.
well, I've already told this one, but in high school, friends of mine had an Everclear game they would play, and they did it once in school because they
Oh,
were
Jesus.
bored, and that was at lunch. They went out and did shots of Everclear, and they came back to class, and it was AV class, so we're in the theater, and we're just kind of watching some. I don't remember what it was. And they said, "You ready? Yeah, you ready?" And they would stand up as quickly as they could to see if they could, and they would compete to see who could stand up longer before they'd hit the floor. Yeah.
Of course, you had kids doing lines in class. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. That was not a good school. I went to a good school and a terrible school.
That sounds like the 90s.
We didn't
Yeah.
do stuff like that. We just sat in the back of class and drank.
No,
And so did the teacher.
I spent 2 years at a very good high school, and then because of diversity and how it was going to enrich and enhance everybody, I had to go to a ghetto school because supposedly my presence there was going to make it better for them, and I would learn from them. Well, I learned a lot about how to sneak drugs into class, and
Those are valuable skills.
I mean, I didn't do any of the drugs, but I did see a lot of people on drugs. Learned a lot about drugs.
At California in the late 70s, early 80s.
I saw a lot of fights.
Well, yeah.
There was a shooting on campus. Saw a
Oh,
kid draw a
lovely.
gun on another kid.
But have you ever been accused of using voodoo against the football team?
No.
No.
Oh,
I
please
have.
tell this story. Okay, was this at Scripps Ranch?
Yes, this is what Scripps.
My
Okay.
dad was the head football coach. That's
And
why I
your
want to
dad.
hear this.
Okay. Was your dad still there? Or were you still there when we had the Percent Other Club? Did you hear about us?
No.
Because we apparently got brought up to the school board several times.
You have to remember, I was a dumb jock. Like, literally. I was like the stereotype. We've talked about this. I still talk like a fucking, like, dude bra. Yeah, so it might not have even registered because I was probably really high.
I just know that we
You
had a
were
lot
ahead
of
of the curve. You were
yeah.
right to start this club.
Yeah, we had a lot of people hating us. That's why I was curious if you heard about it. No, Scripps Ranch High at this time had 5 Christian clubs, 3 Muslim clubs, and God knows how many Jewish clubs.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's because it's Scripps Ranch.
And I say
Knowing
that
that community.
well, I know it was more than one. That's the thing. I just don't know how many exactly. Because like everybody seemed to like have also formed their own club that I met who was Jewish. So I don't know how many clubs there were. But anyway, so we formed the Percent Other Club. We are the percent other on the pie chart that makes up everybody else. And we even went to Mr. Blumenshine, the most kick-ass teacher in the world, who was the biology teacher. And he sponsored us. He brought it to the school board, asked them if it would be okay if we had our club, and they said yes. So we were an official club of the school. It was official. And the first day that we had our first meeting, we opened the doors and said anybody can come in and chat with us. We're not here to judge. We're even happy if Christians want to join us. That's fine. We just wanted to hang out and have a club. That's all we wanted to do. And basically, we just watched anime before the anime club was formed, and just hung out at lunch. No big deal. But the next thing we knew is all of the Christian clubs started posting rumors that we were stalking people and putting curses on people and other
Well, how do
things
you
like
know
that.
Leslie wasn't?
She may have, but uh, and they even like had to come and like interview us and say, what have you guys been doing? And it's like nothing. We just want to hang out. That's it. And even Blue and Shine backed us up and said, no, they're good kids. They're not doing anything wrong. And it all culminated in there was this huge scandal where like the football team lost a match, and instantly one of the cheerleaders said that claimed that they had found a doll with a hairpin in it, so obviously our club was using voodoo against their football team.
Okay, let me just interrupt for a second, Kat. I can tell you right now, my
Yeah.
dad did not give a shit. He was the head football coach and the athletic director. I never heard anything about this. They were probably laughing their ass off at the dumbass cheerleader claiming somebody was putting voodoo on their team.
Probably, the thing is I talked to several of the football guys, and they're like, we don't know where this is coming from. It's not coming from us. So it wasn't coming from the team. It was coming from other people. But there was this big deal that we made them lose a match, and
Jesus.
in retaliation, one of the people in our club was also in yearbook, and dude got shaken down and roughed up and told to take out our page in the yearbook.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Uh, I gotta
No,
have.
Kat, my dad never said anything about that. My dad always came home with stories of them playing pranks, like the coaches playing pranks on each other and talking shit about stupid teachers and like mocking like the kids and the notes they would pass in class.
So your dad had cool stories.
Yes. Yeah, I mean like yeah, that never. So what year was this?
Oh, 98.
Okay, yeah, I was there. My dad was obviously there. And this was never brought up ever. Like, I would have heard about it if it was a big deal. Honestly, when Scripps Ranch lost a football game, it was because my dad never blamed it on anything, but they needed to go back to square one. They did something wrong. Like, voodoo did not. Oh my God. I can't
Yeah.
believe you guys got shaken down for that. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it was
This is
total
when I wish my
bullshit.
dad was still alive because I'd like run out and be like, Dad, do you remember this?
I got a good one for you all. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd been dating Linda for a couple of months, and she liked to do charity work. And she calls my barracks, and she's like, "Hey, can you come pick me up? I'm at such and such place. I'm doing a charity gig." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll show up." There'd been a little bit of trouble in the barracks, been a little bit of problems. So I'm like, "Yeah." I told the CQ, "Hey, I'm heading out. I'm heading off post," because I had to sign in and out because of security reasons. And I drive and I pick her up. She's wearing, the clothing she did her charity work in. And I'm like, "You want to go back to your place and change?" She's like, "Nah, take me to the barracks." Well, she said more than that, but basically the gist was take me back to the barracks. And we get to the barracks, and I look down the hallway, nobody's in there. We run down to my room because I don't want to sign her in because I hated signing her in. And we're sitting there, and we've had a couple shots, and she's telling me about her day. She's just thrilled with this charity work she's doing. And I start hearing banging on the doors. I'm like, "What the fuck?" And it's the MPs, and they're going through every room. And apparently, somebody supposedly had a pistol and was threatening people, which it turned out to be the wrong unit. But
Oh,
they bang
jeez.
on my door, and I look at Linda. I'm like, "Fuck, hide!" And she jumps in my wall locker and closes the door. And I answer the door. I'm standing there, and my CO's there, the first sergeant's there, the MPs are there, the sergeant major's there, and they bust into the room, and they're like, "We're looking for somebody with a gun." I'm like, "I got one gun and it's between my legs." Now the CO's like, "Will you just shut up?" And they walk up, and the sergeant major opens my wall locker and looks at me and closes the wall locker. And the MP sees his expression and goes, "What is it, sergeant major?" He goes, "Nothing, nothing. I'm seeing things." Right? And the CO walks up and he goes, because he's brand new. He's like, "What are you hiding in here?" And he whips it open. There's Linda sitting, because you have inside the wall lock, you have a little 3-drawer chest. She's sitting in the 3-drawer chest in the outfit she was doing charity work with a candy cane in her hand, and smiling at the CO, who screams like a girl. And the first sergeant looks at me and goes, "I'm going to take that midget and beat you to death with her." The sergeant major goes, "God damn it, you pissed me off." And he walks out. And the MP looks at me and goes, "Why is there an elf in your wall locker?" And I looked and I went, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see anything." The first sergeant's like, just. She was doing charity work at the hospital. She was dressed as an elf. And I get called into the office the next day. The new CEO looks at me and goes, "Is there something I need to know about you?" And the first sergeant goes, "Oh, God, don't get me started."
Wow.
And the woman who later becomes my wife comes down to my room the next day and she says, "So I hear you had a half naked elf in your wall locker." I'm like, "Oh God, now everybody knows."
So first the midget, then the elf.
It's the same person though.
Oh.
The
You looked
sergeant
up.
major was all, "I hate you so much." That
Oh,
was
so
the
you
last
ended
time
up.
they inspected my room.
Wait. So let me get the. Are you married to the?
No. She took a job in Dallas, and I bumped around single for a couple months, and then got engaged and eventually married the woman who's my wife now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she did a really good job. But yeah, I don't blame her. She was like, "I'm gonna be making 6 figures a year." I'm like, she goes, "And I'm really bad." I'm like, "You want me to help you pack?" She's like, "What?" I'm like, "It's 6 figures. I'm in the army. Go." But yeah, it's the whole people come up to me, people I do for the UV come to me and go like, "So an elf in your wall locker?" I'm like, "Don't ask." But the CO, "Is there something about you I need to know?" The first sergeant, "Don't even get me started." I used to get in trouble for the most ridiculous shit.
You need
Look,
to write an
sir,
autobiography about your
Oh
adventures.
God, no.
sir,
No,
sir.
I'd go
I
to
am sure
jail.
there are men in this unit with much weirder kinks than mine. Okay.
That's what I always said. There's got to be people with weirder stuff than that. You ever talk? We've got a guy who fucks a sock puppet. Why are you up my ass about a midget?
You serious?
What?
Yes.
Please. See, you're holding out on us. Come on. What is this?
The guy had a sock puppet with a little
Pulling
wig
all
and
he
googly
knows.
eyes, and his roommate used to bitch that he'd use the sock puppet to masturbate.
What?
And we thought he was lying. And then we went to Reforger. And, you have to keep somebody awake, to make sure the gas stoves are running okay. And I'm sitting there and the lights are out, and I keep hearing this weird noise. I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" So I grab my MVGs and put them on, turn them on. Sure as shit, this guy's got a goddamn sock puppet over his dick, just cranking to beat hell. I just turned off the NVGs.
Look, I've seen enough.
Like,
I was
okay
like,
then.
I don't get paid enough for this shit.
I can only imagine some dude with a sock puppet on his dick and little googly eyes are just
It
wiggling
was,
like crazy.
it was the googly eyes that did it for me. I was like, I don't get paid enough. Oh God.
Why does this sound like Boy Scouts?
My unit had a serial masturbator, and that dude was fucking weird. Man, you did not want to be standing near him and all of a sudden start hearing cloth rustling and be like, "If you're jerking off, I'm going to turn around and butt stroke you. I swear to God." They finally sent him to the hospital. Dude is in the doctor's office jerking off.
Okay. Multiple people keep asking. Linda's the same one. Clear this up. A lot of people were confused, like I was. So Linda's the
Oh,
same one in the.
in the foxhole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the one I met in the tavern. She's the one I took to see Metallica and carried around on my shoulders.
That's
She
Nice.
sounds
awesome.
really cool.
I like to have fun. I was like, I was definitely early Gen X and definitely Cold War with, we're all gonna die at any
Yeah.
second, so we might as well go out having fun with a whiskey bottle in one hand and whatever in the other.
I honestly think that's half of the reason all these stories exist. between the three of us is half that. And well, actually, Janelle wasn't neglected, but the other half being the latchkey kids.
Oh God. Well, it
Well,
wasn't so much latchkey as when I went in the house. My dad was usually drunk and my mother was screaming at
Or
me.
that, or worse, yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say my dad had horrible brain damage from playing in the NFL, so he not only had CTE, but it
Eesh.
made him bipolar and he became a raging alcoholic. So like
Yeah.
my
Okay.
life was not perfect. But yes, I didn't have it as bad as some people, but like on nights that there were rage outs, it was a
Oh yeah.
different story.
So, okay, so then, yeah, you also had a reason to get the hell out of the house and not come back for long periods of time.
When I got accepted to the dorm program at SDSU, I was out of there in a heartbeat. Don't get me wrong, like I love my dad. All the shit that's happened, I don't hate him, but like the violent mood swings, and I mean violent, like because he had brain damage, the NFL and was covering that shit up. So like, and my
Hmm.
dad was a center. So it's basically like his frontal lobes were turned to mashed potatoes.
Oh, geez, would he
Jeez.
not remember stuff?
He would remember stuff. Luckily,
Okay.
his memory stayed intact, but he could not control his temper, and the slightest thing could set him off, like leaving your shoes out on the couch instead of taking him to your room. Or not on the
Well,
couch, but by the couch.
the problem with frontal lobe damage or underdevelopment, either way, is you kind of have a hard time learning from the past or foreseeing consequences of extreme action.
Yeah, that was it. I mean,
Eesh.
the remorse my dad would have after like the terror would be over was pretty hardcore because he grew up in an abusive household with a father that had PTSD and a narcissistic mother. So,
Mm.
like, he understood, but he couldn't control it. It was nuts. So, yeah, when I turned 18 and I got the dorm program at SDSU, I was like, see ya, I love you, Dad, but I already spent 18 years dealing with this. I'm gone.
My father,
So,
my father was older, and I understood what was wrong with him when I was. It was right before my mom kicked me out. I'd come in late, and my dad was sitting at the kitchen table, and there was one light on, and he's sitting there and he's doing shots. And he sees me coming in. It's like 1 in the morning. I'm like, I'm busted. He looks at me and goes, sit down. I sat down. I'm like, he's gonna fucking grab me and start wailing on me with the belt, right? Does a couple shots and he pushes one over to me and goes, drink that. I'm like, okay. It's wintertime. And he looks at me and goes, it was so cold that we had to tie the dead to the side of the tanks. And the Chinese bullets that hit him, and talk, 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 talk. And you'd be glad that the frozen body was there because the rounds wouldn't go through the hull.
Shit.
And we marched through the snow, go to bed.
Holy
I have never
crap.
gone to bed so fast in my life. I was scared shitless. After that,
Whoa.
I understood the whiskey, I understood the beer, I understood all of it. I never understood why when it snowed, half the time he would pack up everything and we'd move.
oh,
He just couldn't deal
Jesus.
with it.
He
Okay.
couldn't deal with it. So yeah, I had that going on. But he
Wow.
was a fun father. For all of his faults, he was fun. Taught us all kinds of shit.
I think the greatest generation that was probably how do I want to put it? They went through some shit,
Yeah, they
and
went
yet
through hell.
Mhm.
they were able, for the most part, able to keep it together. Because I don't know if I know I've talked to Kat and Ishi about this, but my grandfather being Marine at Iwo Jima, like
Oh,
Mhm.
we heard
Jesus Christ.
we heard the stories of like killing Japanese soldiers in the dark, and he was so close he could see the whites of their eyes.
My
You
great
Oh,
know,
uncle, my
jeez.
great uncle was in Europe, and you guys know, how everybody after World War II, all the white people fled the cities, right?
Mhm.
yeah.
And they always have all these people have all these excuses. And I happened to mention it. I was in junior high, and I happened to mention my great uncle was sitting at the table, and he'd fought in Europe. He'd been at Anzio and fought all the way through, Battle of the Bulge, everything.
Oh shit.
And I'm talking about white flight and all this, and he looks at me and goes, "Boy, that is the dumbest shit I ever heard." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Do you know why we left the cities? Why we took our GI Bill and left the cities?" I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Because for 2 years every city I went through reeked of the dead,
Whoa.
and we came home and it was a city, and you can still hear the gunfire." He goes, we left because it reminded us of Europe. That's why. He goes, there's no racism. He goes, I serve next to black people. I like black people. We left the cities because of what happened in Europe. That's why we moved to the suburbs. He lived in the suburbs. I think he lived in the suburbs of Detroit because he was an automotive guy. And yeah, so it always blew me away, that I read about that. Oh, they left because of this, and it's like, I don't know. From what I heard, all the World War II vets left the city because it was a city.
That explains a lot. I mean, my dad's parents moved out to Phoenix, Arizona, which was, back then like bumfuck nowhere. And my grandparents lived in La Mesa, which at the time frame was still the sticks in San Diego County. So yeah, that makes total sense why both my grandfathers had their families out in like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh God, when I came back, I was fine for a couple of years, and then I could not handle being in the city where I couldn't watch around myself 24/7. So we moved out to the woods. It was just I couldn't keep track of everybody at once.
I actually know a guy who had the same problem to the point that he was in Iraq and Afghanistan, that if he saw a plastic bag on the side of the road,
Hit the
he'd start
brakes.
sweating and freaking
Yep.
out. Yeah, hit the brakes and couldn't like drive.
Yeah, we were going down the freeway with my little brother, and you know how sometimes there's cables across the road? He saw that and locked it up and turned the wheel and skidded sideways. I was like, what the fuck? He's like, sorry. He goes, cables mean you got an IED coming up. I'm like, why don't you let me drive? You got out of the car, he's all shaking. I'm like, let me drive. Do we need to go by the VA? He's like, no, I'm okay. But yeah, he locked it up on I-5 and went sideways.
Okay, that's some rough shit.
He's better now. Now he's a complete tool. I love my little brother, but he's a complete tool. But we need a funny one to end with, not depressing shit. Itchy, you got a funny one? Itchy?
Whoa, where'd they go?
Did we lose him?
I don't know.
Oh, hello there. Hi.
Like you abandoned us.
I don't know.
Kat,
Maybe we didn't want to hear that.
Kat went off to the kitchen to set dinner up, get it started.
Oh, that's right. It's early for you.
But anyway, well, 9:30 now. But just real quickly, people are kind of asking about the whole latchkey thing. It kind of blows me away to realize that maybe there's a whole generation or two that has no idea what that was. But it coincided with the Cold War, but it wasn't a Cold War thing because the boomers had parents at home during the Cold War. What it was during the 70s and 80s, with the proliferation of feminism and all that stuff, both parents were working, or there was a divorce and both parents were working.
Or they were just hippies and couldn't be fucking bothered to raise their fucking kids.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I can relate. I certainly can relate. And so there were a lot of kids that, or essentially, Gen X is sometimes called the latchkey generation because we were the kids who came home to empty houses and ended up raising ourselves, or grandma and grandpa raising us, or television raising us.
Or daycare. That was me. Yeah.
And there's a reason you hear all these stories about passing the time or running amok. And that's partially the reason. A lot of us, not all of us, a lot of us were not really wanted. We were the kids that had ruined the party for the hippies. We reminded them they weren't young and that we didn't turn into little versions of themselves. And
they told you that every day.
Oh, yeah. And we were constantly told we were stupid, that we weren't nearly as good as them. And we had it crammed down our throats that we had no future. We'd all die before 30. So it's just, it's something that it's why I kind of have a hard time sometimes when I hear millennials or Zoomers complain about their situation. And I know you guys got your own hell to go through.
Yeah.
But we've kind of been forgotten. I mean, we're not even listed as a generation half the time. It's always boomers, then millennials. They even forgot we existed. And the
Actually, I kind
truth,
of like it that way.
and the
Me
truth
too.
is, you guys, the boomers and the millennials, both outnumber us. I think for every 3 boomers, there were 2 Gen Xers, and for every 4 millennials, there are 2 Gen Xers. So we're kind of in the minority in that regard too. And then a lot of us killed ourselves, but
We killed each other and did stupid shit.
yeah, or did stupid shit. Yeah,
We are
Death
the
by
Jan
misadventure.
Brady.
yeah,
We're
Yeah.
we're Jan Brady.
yeah. That is true.
Yeah, latchkey thing, big latchkey thing was, you'd wake up because you'd hear your parents leaving, and you'd get up, and you'd get your siblings, you and your older siblings, if you had any, would get the younger ones up, make sure they get dressed, you'd make
Yeah,
breakfast for them, you'd get everybody out to the bus stop, you'd go to school, and then you'd come home and unlock the door, and there was nobody home, and you would make dinner. Well, you'd make snack, make dinner, make sure everybody did their homework, and your parents would roll in like 9 or 10 o'clock, and inevitably they'd be drunk or high,
mm,
and that was your life. And then you would literally hear, "Oh, you've never done a day's work in your life.
yeah.
You've never had
Yeah.
any hardship in your life."
Or you never knew what it would like. You could, every day I woke up being afraid that I'd get drafted and go to Vietnam, but you
Oh God,
didn't.
I heard Vietnam so often, I started to get PTSD from it.
Constantly. Well, see, my father never went, but he was always, what it was like. I was always worried I was going to be drafted. So, well, you weren't.
You weren't. I remember watching I remember. I don't know if you're old enough, but I remember watching the casualty list go by
I'm
on
not
nighttime
that old.
TV. Oh man, that was something else. Yeah, that
Um,
was that was the days,
and
and
I'm
it made us
also,
crazy.
and I also remember everything being Reagan's fault.
Hmm.
And I remember it being like 2008, and my parents bitching about something happening in California. I said, Reagan hasn't been president or governor in decades.
In 20 years, let it go,
I mean,
princess.
everybody in the state, the entire state is ran by Democrats, and they haven't been able to fix anything. I mean, take some goddamn responsibility. I actually said that.
Oh no, that was our parent. That was our parents. Our parents would avoid responsibility for anything. They would drop the eggs on the floor and break them and yell at you.
I guess I had it different. Both my parents were hardcore conservatives, and
Yeah,
I got lucky. And for the
you
first
did.
6 years of my life, both my parents had to work. I mean, it wasn't a choice. But I had my great grandparents' farm, so for the first 6 years of my life, I tootled around a farm, and then I just went to daycare, and they still they didn't blame me for shit unless I actually did shit. Drawing on the walls and then blaming it on the damn Rottweiler, which I did
Yeah,
a lot.
No, no, your issue is that your dad got screwed by his job.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you have talent and you get drafted to your dream job and then, they cover up the shit that happens to it. I don't know if I've told people. Maybe in the next show I can tell the stories that my dad told me about playing for SDSU and the NFL.
Hmm. And you know what? Then on an equivalent, we could have Kat tell the story about her dad and crawling around reactors and getting cancer.
Oh,
oh man.
Jesus.
Yeah. So anyway, well, yeah, we need to end on a good note. This is getting real dark.
A good
Uh,
note. Here's
good
one.
note. Okay, a good note. Are there any more midget stories? Linda sounds awesome.
Oh God. Not a midget story, but me being a dumbass.
Oh, okay, that works.
Middle of the air war, we're moving literal 10, 20, 30 trailer trucks an hour full of artillery rounds, right? And MLRS pods. And I've been working for about 36 hours straight, and I would crush together the cocoa powder, the salt, and the sugar and snort it. You do not want to know what that does to you. But it's called Ranger Speed, and you do that shit and it'd make your hands shake, your nose bleed, then you'd be fine. So I'm wearing a poncho around my neck for some goddamn reason. I think it drizzled. And I'm standing up on top of the trailer, and it's about to roll out. And one of my crew comes up and goes, "Hey, we got another 30 trailers coming in." And I yell, "This sounds like a job for," and took a step off the jump, and my poncho caught. And it swings me down, and I slam my face twice against the side of the truck and fall on my back on the ground. And my friend looks and goes, "Someone else, maybe?"
Whoa.
That was actually hilarious at the time. I couldn't stop laughing. And another one, we're sitting in the middle of nowhere. We're waiting for some jets to come in bringing ammo from the States. And we're in these big forklifts. And, we're sitting there and we're talking across the radios. And the other guy goes, "Hey, does it look like the ground's moving to you?" And I'm like, "How much speed have you done?" He's like, "None. Does it look like the ground's moving to you?" I'm like, "No, it doesn't look like the fucking ground's moving. Quit being a weirdo." He's like, "No, I'm telling you, the ground's moving." I'm like, "Fine, let me hit the lights," right? And we're in these huge forklifts with big spotlights on them. They're articulated in the middle. I fire up the engine, and I notice I got something along the edges of my windshield and on the windows, but I'm not really paying attention because, middle of the damn night, I don't want to be there. And I hit the lights, and the entire place is covered with spiders. We're
Oh,
talking camel spider
Oh,
hatching
Jesus.
ground. And they're on the windshield. And they're on the forklift.
Spiders and camel spiders are not the same thing.
Do what?
Camel spiders and spiders are not the same thing. Spiders are creepy. Camel spiders are like from Hellraiser.
And we threw those things in gear and took off, and my buddy's yelling, "They're on the cab!"
Camel spiders have killed people.
We actually called that shit into the Air Force. The Air Force rerouted the jet.
Whoa.
We had to go to a separate landing area. Because they're like, "Well, how many is it?" I said, "The whole runway is covered." And they're like, "Well, what are they, like little spiders?" I'm like, "The body's about the size of your palm." "Well, how many are there?" "I don't know, all of them." And they're like, they're an hour out. We're going to reroute.
Listeners, if you want to be horrified, do a Google search on camel spider. You will see nightmares.
Oh, man, funny shit like that.
All right. Well, I think that's a good way to end the night. Real quickly, please support our sponsor, Abduction Wear. Link is in the description. And we have got the Chupacabra Hunting Club t-shirt. Get it now. Also available as mug, sticker, t-shirt, magnet, all that other crap. So anyway, want to say goodbye?
good night, everyone. This was a great night.
Good night, everybody. And remember, before you get in the van, get the candy first.
I gave you the candy. Get in the damn van.